It's time for WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Here's your host, Joe Costello.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to WFO Radio NHRA Podcast. I'm Joe Costello. How are you holding up out there? Hopefully everybody is doing very, very well. And I'm doing well. We're all just trying our best to make it and get ahead here in the great United States of America. And we got Alan Reinhart going to be up in a few minutes, going to talk about the new updated schedule beginning June 5th through 7th with the Gator Nationals. And now, Pro Modified, Top Fuel Harley, Samtech.edu, Factory Stock Showdown, and Mountain Motor Pro Stock have their schedules out as well. The archive is loaded. We had a lot of great content last week, including Sean Langdon and Rob Flynn. We spoke with Bobby Bennett from Competition Plus, who had and contracted and was tested with COVID-19, the coronavirus, and is now recovering. That is an interview that I really hope everybody will go listen to. I've had some people say that they're afraid to listen to it, honestly, or not ready for it, not ready to hear it. You really should. Also, Dr. Phil Surface in the archive, Kyle Seipel in the archive, and Jason Logan dropped in at the end of the week for a little fun to let us know what he's been up to. All of that in the archive. I've got the updated schedule for Pro Mod, Top Fuel Harley, Factory Stock Showdown, and Mountain Motor Pro Stock, and we're going to talk about that with Alan Reinhart. That's available online. I do want to tell you about the WFO radio sponsors. These are the people who, in this most critical of situations, are making it possible for WFO to continue. We're talking about RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. You want to support a small business? I see everybody posting about supporting small businesses in this difficult time. Marvin is isolated and roasting coffee. He can send out a pound of coffee to you and the hot sauces and the spice rubs. 817-924-6821. That's RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. MagicDryUS.com. Talking about Scott Palmer, who has really been helpful to us. If you need Magic Dry, it's organic, it's lighter, it's better, MagicDryUS.com. Total Seal Piston Rings. The engine projects aren't waiting. You got to get your engine done so that you can race it when we get back. Why not have the best in the business when it comes to rings? 800-874-2753. Call Keith. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, 713-683-3817. And Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. And as you know, we create podcasts for Samtech, and we create podcasts for Total Seal. Those are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for those of you listening. With not a lot going on. Not a lot going on. As far as the schedule goes, Pro Modified, Top Fuel Harley, and Factory Stock Showdown starting off at the Gator Nationals. The Pro Mod schedule, all 12 races. The Pro Mod schedule, 12 total events. Gainesville, Bristol, Norwalk, Chicago, and Denver, followed by Brainerd, Topeka, Indy, Charlotte 4-wide, the Midwest Nationals in St. Louis, the Fall Nationals in Dallas, and it ends in Vegas. That's Pro Mod. Top Fuel Harley, they got a couple of races in the books already, as you know. Gainesville, Chicago, Brainerd, Topeka, Indy, Reading, Dallas, Vegas. Factory Stock Showdown, Samtech.edu, Gainesville, Norwalk, Chicago, Indy, huge break there. And then tough sledding at the end of the season, but I understand why. Charlotte 4-wide, St. Louis, Dallas, Vegas for Samtech Factory Stock Showdown. And we're going to have to do a new Factory Stock podcast. And finally, Mountain Motor Pro Stock. I did a live stream last week. It's on the Facebook page. Johnny Placino came on. He was asking about this. Here you go, Johnny. I'm sure he already knows. Chicago, Denver, Brainerd, St. Louis. The 4-race Mountain Motor Pro Stock season. And there you go. There is the schedule. And we start in June at the Gator Nationals. New information, so let's talk about it. Joining us now, back once again, he is the voice of the NHRA, and he has been on WFO for, it's like 16 years since our satellite radio days, and it's like a good thing to be able to connect with Alan Reinhart each week. Alan, how are you, sir?
It's starting to feel like 16 years since we've been to a drag race.
Yeah, It really has. It's funny. It
No,
goes by slowly.
I'm good. I'm just kind of laying low, taking care of some stuff around the house and around the shop, just little me projects that I haven't been able to do for a while. And I miss racing, but there's a whole lot of people that are dealing with a whole lot bigger problems than I am right now, so I'll be fine.
Isn't that the truth? Serious problems, and one of which a mutual friend of all of ours, friend and colleague Bobby Bennett, Bobby had been posting on the social media that he had got the COVID-19 and coronavirus, et cetera, and so on. And I had reached out to him like, hey, whenever you're ready, man, let's, I'd like to, speak with you. And he called on Friday morning, and I posted that interview Friday midday. And it was a shocker, Alan, to hear Bobby like that.
Well, the thing is that this is obviously some pretty serious stuff, and I know nothing other than what I've read about it. And I certainly don't pretend to have any kind of a medical background, but it's interesting that, I've heard from some people that, it knocked me down for a couple of days, but I'm feeling better now, to, people like Bobby that were sick for a couple of weeks and very, very sick, to, people that it seems like every day you hear about a new somebody that is not just, Joe Slobotnik from the 7-Eleven down the street who actually died, whether it's celebrities, whether it's, people in a little bit more mainstream. So, you know what, I'm just kind of laying low. I'm not sure I'd have done this when I'm 25, but at this point in my life, I'm just laying low. I don't want no part of it.
I agree. And since we're going in that, of course, all you drag racing fans out there, what we're going to talk with Alan about today, there's a couple of things in terms of breaking news, which is NHRA has now released their updated schedules for all categories, including Samtec Factory Stock Showdown, Pro Mod, Top Fuel Harley, Mountain Motor Pro Stock, the June schedule that we discussed. And Alan, that might have been like right after our discussion last week that they released the June schedule as par for the course. See, some things have stayed normal. WFO airs, and then all the news breaks.
I think they do that to you on purpose, Joe. I mean, did you ever get the feeling that everybody's kind of sitting around looking at their watch, refresh, and as soon as WFO radio hits, like, okay, time for our news break.
Yes, and, I do.
Yeah, I think they do that to you on purpose.
Which I'm fine with. If that's fun for someone, I'm all about it because I'll be here next week. And we don't promise to be breaking news. We promise to be news. And in this case, we've got Factory Stock Showdown Pro Mod as relatively breaking news. But the schedules have all been pushed back with a Gator National start date in June. And I feel like that, considering the moving news, the moving target that's going on, everybody dealing with the situation, that feels good to me. And even if we can't abide by it, I'm willing to comply. But that actually sounds, it could be realistic.
I certainly hope it is. And I think, I applaud NHRA for the decision they made. I have to tell you, when the news first came out, I'm thinking to myself, June? Seriously? But then when you look at the fact that, this is such a moving target, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with it. And then I'm starting to think to myself, you know what? Okay, if you said end of April, second week of May, end of May for sure, then I think you almost end up being kind of the boy that cries wolf, especially if you have to keep going back and back. And I think moving back, putting together a strategic plan that, like, look, we believe this is doable, and once we get started again, we're going to go. We've got everything in place. We don't have to start making it up from there on out. I think was a good plan. And one of the things that I do in my shop is I do a little bit of chassis work. And one of the things that has always annoyed me about chassis guys, or anybody, to tell you the truth, if something's going to cost $10 million and it's going to take 10 years, tell me that. But there's nothing that annoys me more than if I've got a guy, no matter what it is, and he says, man, I'll have it for you Tuesday. End of the week for sure. I'll work the weekend and definitely have it Monday. You know what? Got a little tied up. We'll try to have it for you by Wednesday. That annoys the snot out of me. And I would rather have somebody give me a realistic target that I can shoot for, that I can plan for, and do that instead of, every week giving me a different story. And I think that that's what an NHRA was looking at, was like, look, this isn't going to be over in 2 weeks. Let's push back far enough that we believe we have a realistic date, and then let's just plan everything starting on that. Now, obviously, we don't know 100% that that's going to happen or not, but, I felt good about it. after I kind of played through the whole scenario in my head, and I still feel good about it now.
No, totally agree. Also on this episode with Alan, we've had some listeners, Alan, who have gotten into the show, and really what our goal is in that they have a car, it's a street cruiser, it's something fun, a Camaro, say, and then they go out to their local track and they start to race it, and they test and tune a little bit, and they have fun, and they maybe bracket race. And I've had a couple people reach out about building their car for Stock Eliminator. So I want everyone to know we're going to attack that as best as we can here in this forum. Like, what does it take moments from now? But I do want to continue to double back on NHRA's schedule. Factory Stock Showdown, Top Fuel Harley, Pro Mod will all continue to be at the Gator Nationals June 5th through 7th. So the starting point, people have been curious about that. For all intents and purposes, we're having the same Gator Nationals. It's just going to be June 5th through 7th.
And I think that's a wise move also. And the reason being that since none of those classes have been on the racetrack as of yet, I think you need to get their season started. I think we need to get them out there and get them going. Since we did contest all of the Lucas Oil categories except for the alcohol cars when we were down there in Gainesville before, we're certainly going to have time. It takes time to turn around the nitro cars in the Mellow Yellow Series. So we're going to have time in between rounds to make this happen. And I think it's going to be a pretty good show. When you consider the fact that on-track activity, the slowest thing out there is going to be 200-mile-an-hour Pro Stock motorcycles. And I think that, the teams will all be chomping at the bit to get back. And I think they're going to be kind of raring to go for pretty quick turnarounds and stuff. So I still think it's going to be a fast-paced, quick-moving Saturday, Sunday, like it normally is when we run the races down there in Gainesville. I really, really want to get started, man. I'm ready. I know you follow some of my social stuff, but Sunday here in Arizona was an absolutely beautiful day. It was 75 degrees. It was sunny skies. It was just a perfect day. So I decided I'm jumping on my motorcycle and going for a spin, right? That's social distancing. Nobody's going to be too close to me if I'm on my motorcycle.
You'd think.
And so after coming back from a, whatever it was, 50, 55 mile an hour, just kind of cruise around town, I thought, okay, that was a good day. Only 2 months plus to go. So I may have my motorcycle worn out by then, but like I said, I think that date is realistic, and I think that we need to get everybody that hasn't been on track yet on track. So I think that's a very wise decision to have, the Pro Mods start there, to have the Factory Stock Showdown guys there, to make it all happen. They need to get going, probably even more so than our Mellow Yellow, our nitro cars and Pro Stock cars that have at least already had a couple of track days.
Since we did not catch up since the announcement, it has been kind of a longer period. There were some notes in the new schedule that I thought were interesting at very least, and I'm all for it. I think everything gets thrown out the window in times like these in that we do what we got to do to survive literally and, of course, figuratively. And so the new schedule for the Mellow Yellow Series will not include a points reset, no countdown, which for this circumstance, this year, I think it's actually very interesting. You've got all these people who have been suggesting this for a long time. You know where I stand. So does the audience about the countdown. I like it, but given this circumstance, I'm interested to see how it goes. It's certainly going to change the way people were planning on racing, Alan. Like the final 6 races, bring your best stuff to the final 6. Maybe that's not the strategy anymore since there's no longer a countdown. You think they're working on that kind of stuff?
Well, I think, and I have not spoken to anybody at NHRA, so I don't have any, inside information on this, but I really think that was part of the whole long-term strategy when they said we're not coming back until June. We're not going to try to, continually set dates that either aren't realistic or wouldn't be made, to go, okay, where do we go from here? And I think the realization is that, if we have bad weather, if we have other issues, it's very possible that we may lose a race someplace and not be able to make it up, or have it be very difficult to make up since the calendar all of a sudden is very full. And so the realization then becomes, okay, let's just do it like this. Every race is important, and so you don't get teams that are going, gee, I don't know about the forecast, or gee, that's a long drive, or, it's been a long 3 weeks, but my guys need some rest. Let's take the weekend off. I think you need to make every race is important. So if you are legitimately running for the championship, or if you're just legitimately running to be in the top 10, that you need to plan out your strategy to make this happen. And I also applaud NHRA for the number of events that they have turned into 2-day pro events. Now, at all of those races, we still will be running the Sportsman cars, the Lucas Oil cars on Friday, but the pros will come in, qualify Saturday, race Sunday. And that basically buys everybody a little bit more time, whether it's an extra day to get there and get set up, or whether that gives you extra time. You know what? We really need to run back to the shop, and now we have an extra day. We can take some time and go back and not miss Friday. And I really believe that NHRA took everything they could into consideration, and that was just part of the adjustment that was made, was that some of these events, the pros are only going to run 2 days, and again, all part of the big picture. I think that there was a lot of thought that went into that schedule before they announced it.
Which I love. I love the fact that there's a lot of thought going on and various levels, and that's what we've come to expect. And I'm kind of jumping around here, everybody, but that's okay. You don't care. We're all over the place, right? Just the decision to pull the plug on the Gator Nationals, like after Bobby Bennett revealed he was sick, I just couldn't help but think, had they not done that, right? Let's see what happens. Let's get out there on Thursday. We would have had a totally different reality within our sport. And I'm just appreciative that there are people in those offices that are thinking deeply about this to make sure that, obviously everybody is taken care of, top to bottom, the racers, the sponsors, the tracks. It's a very complex situation right now. Just within drag racing, imagine leadership of counties, cities, states, and the country.
Well, nobody's been through this before. It's not like, there's a roadmap for, okay, well, the last time this happened, here's what the strategy was, and here's what worked, and here's what maybe we should rethink. So I think everybody is, putting their smartest people together and trying to come up with the best plan that they can. And, you're doing the same thing, right? Your life has changed a little bit, your daily routine and what you do and what you feel comfortable doing. And, you just kind of make it up as you go. You don't know 100% that you're doing the right thing, but you take the information that you have, you make the best decision you have, and you hope that it turns out to be the correct one.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll let you behind the scenes on something that happened just today. I go to the grocery store. When I'm here, I go to the grocery store whenever I get back from travel, when things are normal. So things are not normal now. So I'm kind of creating my own new schedule, like what's life like in this circumstance. So today I decided to go to the grocery store. And I remember the last time I went to the grocery store, I did have a bit of a weird feeling like, man, you know what? There's a lot of people in here and they're touching stuff and I'm touching stuff. And I know they're wiping down the carts, but maybe I should to try doing some stuff. So I did find 2 N95 masks that I used for a project like 4, 5, 6 years ago in my garage. And so I cleaned them as best as I could. They don't need to be perfect for me to use them at the grocery store, right? So I wore a mask out in public for the first time ever in my life, right? Like I've never done that. I remember seeing the videos of people, for years in Asia wearing masks many years ago and thinking, oh my gosh, even recently in our airports, 6 months ago, a year ago, wearing that. So this time I went full gear, man. I decided to go full gear. Like I got some, plastic eye glasses, right? Like in case there's a droplet in the air. Like I went overly paranoid, not because I'm overly paranoid, just as like a dry run, like as a drill to see what it would be like, to see how difficult it is. The gloves, etc. It was a bit of a pain, but I got used to it pretty rapidly. But then, getting home and transferring everything, like, okay, the glove, if you really believe that the glove touched something bad, that you shouldn't touch the door with the glove, right? Or what are you going to want? It was just a very interesting experiment that I participated in at the grocery store.
That makes sense. And, I haven't gone that far, but I do have hand sanitizer in my car. I used to just almost never even see the little sanitizer things that some of the stores have in some of the places, whether it's, the wipes or whether it's and now I look for them, I walk in my local Circle K, you have to almost have to touch the door to open it because you have to pull the door to open it. I never even used to think about it twice. but they've got a little one of those sanitizer things right inside the door. So when I open the door, first thing I do is drop some of this stuff on my hands and go, okay, if I got anything, then I think I got it. And, I don't know. I think what we talked about before a couple of weeks ago, you'll never be able to prove that you overreacted, but if you underreact, you're damn sure going to know it. So I'm just, taking those little precautions when I can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Quick thought on the schedule. Just we had to change where we finished some of our new categories, meaning like Factory Stock Showdown. It's going to end in Vegas like it was planning on ending in Vegas, and that's all available on the web, by the way. But Dallas is back. And really, the final 4 races of the Factory Stock Showdown season, Charlotte, St. Louis, Dallas, Vegas, are all back-to-back races. They tried to avoid that this year, but hey, this is just the way it is. I'm glad that they preserved 4-wide Factory Stock Showdown. That's something I was really eager to see, and I was a little bummed, like, oh, man, maybe it won't happen. And no, it's on the schedule for the 4-wide Nationals at Charlotte.
And I think there's a lot of people that are looking forward to see that, and again, I think that's one of the things that NHRA took into consideration. We're going to lose the 4-wide in Vegas because, that race is just gone. It's not going to be rescheduled. It's not going to be made up. And we're losing the spring race also in Charlotte, which would take place during this hiatus right now. But because the Charlotte fans seem to really love their 4-wide, and because there were some things that were scheduled to be 4-wide that hadn't been before, like the Samtec Showdown, I think, NHRA making the decision that, look, we're only going to go there once, and it's not going to be in the spring, it's going to be in the fall. But we still need to do this because the fans in that region really love that 4-wide race. And, again, I've said it like 4 or 5 times now, but I think that NHRA really thought through every level of this before they put the schedule out. It's not going to be perfect. Obviously the fans in New England are very upset, and I've gotten an inbox full of emails and stuff that the New England Nationals just simply is not going to happen.
Right.
But, you have to make difficult decisions when you're doing these things. And I hope the people in New England understand that it's nothing personal. We love going up there. The fans, it's New England nice and Minnesota nice are pretty darn close to each other, when you talk about being up there and interacting with the fans, but it's just a tough decision that had to be made. And, the factory stock cars running 4-wide, I think I'm really, really looking forward to that. I hate that not going to see the alcohol cars run 4-wide that we were going to see in Vegas, but I hope that comes back somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, for the fans in New England, like to touch on those deals. Like right now, it's a very harsh, difficult time. Like there's a lot of unhappy people about a lot of reasons, and some are very genuine, and some are, medium genuine, and some are superficial. I think this is a real disappointment deal, but it's just this year. This is the circumstance we're dealt this year. There's only so many weeks and so many races remaining, and even then, like this is all if we don't get any rain. If we were to happen to have Ma Nature intervene with anything, it's going to change the schedule again. All right, let's shift gears, figuratively, of course, and talk a little bit about Stock Eliminator, because this is a category. Like when I came in to start announcing, like when I was a fan, I loved Stock Eliminator. I was more of a super stock guy because I like the big steamroller tires. And I kind of thought, the stockers are really cool, but they're the cars exactly as they were intended for the most part. And I always liked some basic modifications. Super stock was a category I always followed a little bit. And I would always ask my father, like, which category could our car ever fit in that category? And he would always politely chuckle at me and say, well, no, we would be better suited in a super street or maybe a super gas. And I would, why? Why is that? Well, because of these 50 different reasons. And as I got older and more experienced, I understood them. I've had several listeners, Alan, reach out and say, man, I would love to run my Camaro in Stock Eliminator, being on the big show, in the big category, a category that is so significant and a big deal, but it takes a lot. So I thought we would discuss some of those things. Like, let's say Joe and Alan Racing, that you have referenced so many times over the years, decide we want to build a Stock Eliminator car, and we have got a bone stock, you pick it, whatever you want the car to be, Alan. What do we do? What's the first step?
Well, I think the first thing I would do, let's do a new generation car, okay? Let's do let's do a Cobra Jet.
Sure.
Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is call Drew Skillman, and I'm going to say, hey, Joe's going to write you a check. How big does it need to be?
And so we're trying to win. At least we're trying to win in this.
Trailer, spares, everything, and that's my plan.
Okay, you're making a joke, but you're not really making a joke. You're saying it seriously. If you are a listener and you have some money and you want to go racing and you want it to be fun, the quickest, easiest, best way to go stock eliminator racing is to buy one that is already campaigning and just go get it and start racing it. That's your point.
The thing you need to remember about Stock Eliminator is, stock does not mean that, hey, we just rolled this thing off the showroom floor and took the passenger seat out of it and, shut the air conditioning off. These cars have been refined over the years because they have a very specific, very strict rule package. You're not allowed to port the cylinder heads. You're not allowed to pump the compression up. You're not allowed to use lightweight crankshafts and various things like that. You have to use the stock pieces. The rules, however, have been in place for a long time. And just like Pro Stock, which I think Pro Stock is the perfect comparison with stock, go back before the fuel injection. The rules have been in place for a long time. Everybody's 500 cubic inches. Everybody is, 2 4-barrel carburetors at the time, 2 valves per cylinder. And the combination has refined itself down to the guys that are really good at it are really good at it. And a guy who's just coming in going, okay, well, I can build a 500 cubic inch motor. How tough can it be? He's 30 years behind the guys that are really good at it. And Stock Eliminator is the same way. Camshaft and Stock Eliminator, I think, is a perfect example. You have to run stock lift, okay? You're not just going to call your local cam guy or get into a catalog and go, okay, send me this cam because that thing's going to make good power up around 7,000 RPMs. You can't do that. There are specific cams that are made for Stock Eliminator. And just like in Pro Stock, go ask Elite Motorsports or go ask KB what their cam specs are and let me know what they tell you. But if you're building, whether it's a 350 Chevy, whether it's a 455 Pontiac, whether it's a big block Ford, the guys that do that have specific camshafts that they have kind of evolved over the years that they have made as a proprietary part. So you and I can't just call and go, hey, send me the same camshaft that, XYZ is running in his car, because they won't do it. Just like they wouldn't send me the same camshaft that KB Racing is running in their cars. So the guys that build these motors have had 30 years or 50 years to refine the combinations and figure out all this stuff that's worth 2 horsepower or 3 horsepower or half a horsepower. And they have incorporated all of that into the engine. And that's not something that you and I can just go do simply because we don't have the knowledge. We haven't been doing it for so long. And then you go through the rest of the car as well. Hey, we found out that these transmissions work better. We found out that this is the perfect converter. This, could you call, Jim Hughes is a neighbor of mine. Could I call Jim Hughes and go, okay, make me a converter for a Stock Eliminator car? Sure. But he's not going to have one as refined as some of the other guys that concentrate on this. This is all they do. This is where their bread and butter is, and they're going to be that much better. The things you and I talked about one time when, your car was not running quite as quick as it does. Remember this?
Yes.
And I said, how easy does it roll? And you went, what? I said, put it on flat surface, put it in neutral, and push it. How easy does it roll? And the guys that are in Stock Eliminator have concentrated so much time and effort on things like this, making sure that the brakes don't drag, making sure that you've got, the absolute best bearings and the perfect stuff. And I don't mean just engine bearings. I mean in the rear end. I mean in the front end, special greases, special things to make these cars better. And there's just 30 years worth of stuff that you've learned. I have some friends of mine here that have a Fox body Mustang, pretty basic 302 combination that they run in stock. And when they decided they wanted to build it, called me and I said, you know what, call Evan Smith. Because when it comes to Ford Stock Eliminator stuff, he's pretty darn strong.
Yeah.
So they called him,
Yes.
and he said, "Okay, what are you looking to do?" He said, "I can give you some recommendations." And they said, "Well, we want to build this one." And he's like, "Okay, well, look, my car will run 90 under, but I can sell you a set of heads that are 50 under. I can sell you a set of heads that are 70 under. I can sell you a set of heads that are 90 under. They're all legal, but the little nuances that have been learned over the years are what makes the difference. And that's just not something you can learn in 10 minutes." And so that's, there's just so much to it. Can you build a stocker that will run the index? And as long as you don't have a heads up, you can go out there and be competitive, certainly. But if you want to go out there and have a car that, is going to be competitive in class and it's going to be able to really compete on the big stage, then it's pro stock technology. It really is, because all of the nuances that for 50 years guys have figured out, and they're simply not giving that away.
So don't do it. If you really aspire to do it, you got to do it in a couple of different ways. Either A, like maybe you want to be that guy who just goes out there and maybe can qualify, or the all-run races, etc. Divisional races, of course, where it's all run always, and just try to avoid the heads-ups and take your whooping if you go in a heads-up and you're a stock eliminator racer. There's a lot of guys out there. There are cars for sale, or start the learning process and get out there and start figuring it out, and you'll get there eventually. And once there's some struggle and money spent, maybe you can get a little help and get advanced in the program and get down the road.
When you get really crazy about it, and I know guys that have gone to the junkyard and taken windshields out of 8 different cars and weighed them, because one of them's going to weigh 4 ounces less. And even though you've got a minimum weight in the car, you still want to be able to put the weight where it's going to do you the most good. You're going to need to put some of it back in the trunk. You don't want it hanging up there over the dashboard. And, little nuances like that. Now, one of the other things, one of the real tricks of the trade, and this is, my buddies with the 5.0 do this all the time. They will look at the entry list, especially at a division race, because, division race, you don't have to necessarily enter weeks out in advance. You don't have to do all this stuff. So you go to the division race and go, okay, there's 3 other guys here that are running an L automatic. All right. You know what? Let's put 200 pounds in the car, because we're going to run M automatic, just because I don't want to race these L automatic guys heads up. And maybe there's not another M automatic on the property. So that's one of the little games that gets played, when you're trying to avoid those heads up. At that point, for the most part, it's a bracket race. And I know class racers hate to hear somebody say that, but it's the realistic part. If I'm the only M automatic car on the property or whatever, then all I'm worried about is a bracket race. I've got to be able to at least run the index, and I got to be able to drive my car. And at that point, I can be competitive. Now, you're not going to go to Indy. You're not going to go to Chicago for the Nationals. You're not going to, because those, you have to be able to qualify for those events. And you're not going to be able to qualify if you don't have, some of this, if you don't have a much higher technical engine than what you've got. But the best thing I would tell anybody that really wants to take their street car and go run Stock Eliminator, go to the races, find somebody that's got a car like yours, and just go start the conversation. Hey, man, I've been thinking about doing this. I've been looking at it. Help me out a little bit here. And a guy's not going to give you every secret that he's got, but the vast majority of the guys, as well as I do, Joe, they love talking about their cars. They like, making new friends. They're all car guys. They will certainly point you in the right direction. And if the right direction is, hey, you need to call Grumpy Tilburg and see what he'll do for an engine for you. Or if the right direction is, hey, go scour the junkyards and try to find this exact set of heads, or whatever it may be that you're going to need, if, depending on whether you're doing an old car or a new car. But that would be the best place to get started, I think, would be go to the races, find somebody that's got a car like yours, and then just ask them. If you're looking at doing, whether it's a classic Camaro or whether it's a later model, a 4th generation thing, if you're down in Division 4, go find the Emmons boys.
Yes.
And just tell them, hey, I've got an old Camaro. I'm thinking about doing this. Can you offer me some advice? And they'll be more than happy to do it. Again, they're not going to give you every secret, but they will certainly point you in the right direction. One thing, even when I was racing with David Nickens and we were in Pro Stock, and we had a couple of things that were just really driving us up the wall. And I spoke to Scott Despain, who was our head machinist, and we were at the racetrack in Houston. And, it's like, man, we just can't. Why are these things doing this stupid thing? And I said, why don't we go ask Warren? And he's, oh, yeah, sure. And I said, he'll talk to us. Why wouldn't he? And we literally went over into Warren's trailer, and I told him flat out, I said, hey, we're here seeking information. If you want to tell us to get out, tell us to get out. But we've got a problem that we can't seem to solve, and, I'd like to see if you can give us a little input. And he said, ask your questions. And everything he told us was true. He didn't give us the magical answer, but he told us a couple of times, you're chasing the wrong dog. You're looking at why this is happening, and what you need to do is be looking at why this is happening. And there were a couple of things we asked him, and he flat out said, took me 5 years to figure it out. I'm not telling you. But everything he told us at least pointed us in the right direction. And I don't know a racer in the pits that wouldn't do that. Again, he's not going to necessarily give you the magical answer, but he might tell you, you know what? Instead of messing with your fuel curve, go back and look at your timing curve, because I think that's where your problem lies. And every racer in the pits that I know of, nobody wants to see somebody go out there, beat their head against the wall, struggle, get frustrated, give up, or blow up a lot of stuff. I think, and that goes all the way to the pros. How many times have you seen A-list crew chief over helping a really, shoestring budget guy, just trying to help him, stay alive, keep his car running, not blow up all of his stuff. That happens in the sportsman pits as well. You just need to go find somebody, start a conversation. That's the best place to start.
Tremendous. No, I love it. And it's a different, and you can speak on this, it's a different hobby. It's a different project. It's a different thing than, say, the .90 classes. And that's why they exist. So many people always ask, well, why isn't it all just heads-up drag racing? Why do we have this .90 racing? And it's because some people just want to race. They don't want to go hunting through a junkyard. They don't want to have to weigh 8 different windshields. They don't want to have to constantly be on the hunt of refinement. But some people want to be. That's part of the fun for them, the hunt through the junkyard. There's shows about that, looking through junkyards, finding junkyard gold, et cetera, and so on. Some people are really interested in that. And then there's others, and that's why my dad always said, no, we got a super street car, Joe. We got a 1090 car. Thing runs 1020s, 1030s right now. It weighs 3,200 pounds. It's pretty. It's heavy. It's we need to get a throttle stop and a timer and try to go 1090 racing and be racers and do that if we want to race, because we can't do that other stuff.
Well, there's just, there's so many nuances. And, obviously there's guys that spend a pile of money on their super comp, super gas, and super street cars as well. But, if you've got a super gas car and you're running it, or let's take your car. You're running your super street car, and you're running late into the evening one night just because the schedule got messed up or whatever. And okay, it's kind of cool, it's kind of brisk, it's kind of fast out there. So you need to make sure that you've done your calculations, get the right numbers so you can still hit the 1090. The next day you come out in the middle of the afternoon, it's 80 degrees, it's humid. You're down 40 horsepower or so just strictly because of the weather. You've got to make the right calculations. You got to, so that your car can still hit the number. Whereas if you're in Stock Eliminator and you have that same swing, if you have a heads-up race, you might be changing the transmission. You might be changing the rear end. You're definitely going to be changing the oil, because you're going to be making all of these adjustments because you have to try to outperform somebody. And the reason all drag racing isn't heads up is simple, because if all drag racing is heads up, then we'd only have one class. It would be top fuel. That'd be it. Because there's always going to be somebody who's going to go spend until you have top fuel. And if you wanted to say, okay, well, we'll just make all the Stock Eliminator classes heads up, well, then fine. Then every car out there is going to be a factory stock showdown car. Because if you want to make it all heads up, then what are people going to do? They're going to, what's the fastest car out there? I'm building one of those. And so that's why we have the different classes. That's why we have the different nuances. But there are still always going to be people who love to just tweak and tune and take a stock car or stock parts and try to see what they can do with them. How much power can we get out of these things? And that's what stock and super stock racing is all about. That's why class racing Indy is such a big deal. because people want to come together and see that. If you decided that, okay, Superstock is going to be an all heads up class, then what are you going to have? Blown copos. And if you want to have a nostalgia Superstock class, then everybody has to build a Hemi car. And, nobody wants that. We want to be able to see the different cars. I absolutely love watching a 5 or 6 second head start in Stock Eliminator. I like watching, a 283 powered wagon taking on a Hemi 4-speed car or a 427 Camaro. It's just fun. So we need to have all of those classes out there. That's what makes NHRA special, is that everybody doesn't have to have a top fuel car to come race. Everybody doesn't have to have a factory showdown car to come race. You can bring out what you have, and we'll find a spot for you.
And I think that's a big part of it, and why the sport has done well. We just got to explain it every once in a while. That's why I like a guy like McNeil Freeman with the Taxi. It's a V-stock automatic 6-cylinder Caprice. No one ever thought that would be a race car, but when we featured him on Attention in the Pits, he was just laughing because he was able to buy the car. He races it. He qualifies. There's one car in his category. He goes out there and he does his best every week. He goes a few rounds, and he's won many Wallies, like more than 10 on the divisional level for various reasons. He's an NHRA drag racer with his 4-door V-stock automatic 6-cylinder Caprice.
And there you go. A situation like that, that guy's not out scouring junkyards looking for the magical parts and looking for the stuff, but he also knows that he's driving a 15-second Caprice. If you're going to get into one of the muscle car things, and I think you mentioned earlier, a guy that's got a Camaro that wants to do this, there are so many of those out there that's when you then have to start getting a little bit more creative, spending a little bit more money, because there are so many people that are running the same combination. And if you want to be competitive with them, it's going to take a little bit more than if you have the only V-stock automatic.
So interesting. All that goes in, and I appreciate you taking the time right here. This is why, and I think it is said on a regular basis, like Stock Eliminator, maybe the most hardcore of the categories, and certainly a racer's favorite, because this sport is about cars. And if you love cars, you love Stock Eliminator. Alan, great job. Any final thoughts before we let you go? Anything else that is on your mind before we part for the week?
No, all good here. Just lay low and stay healthy, and let's see if we can get this thing put behind us and get back to racing in June, because I am absolutely ready to go back to racing.
Totally agree. Very ready. And come June, we're going to be, it's going to be a religious experience, right? Coming back to the drag strip after this, we're all going to appreciate everything so much more, I think. I really hope that is true, that I think we are all going to just appreciate our friendships, our relationships, and the things that we loved. And we loved them, but I think we're going to appreciate them so much more when we get back. Alan, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. We've never been through something like this before, at least I haven't. But I can't help but think you're talking about when we're coming back, the 9/11 thing that, I lived through that. I'm right in the middle of it. I literally flew home on 9/10 and was supposed to fly to Reading, Pennsylvania on 9/12. And it's hard to believe this has been 19 years ago now, and the whole world shut down. And nobody knew what was going to happen. And when we got back to racing a few weeks later, it wasn't, months later, but a few weeks later, just the fact that everybody was coming back out to the races or to the football game or to the baseball game or to whatever, that the world is getting back to normal. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be a tremendous experience when we get there. We need to get through the crisis that we're dealing with right now. And when we're ready to come back, man, we're going to come back and put on a heck of a show for you fans. And I hope that you'll come out and enjoy it with us.
So true. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Try to be productive.
All right, Joe. You have a good week, and we will chat soon.
Thank you, Alan. There he goes, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. Thank you, Alan. And I mentioned he's been doing it for 16 years, but the podcast is only 10 years old. Maybe it's not 16, but it's long. I guess we started this in 2006 with a show called Power Shift on a channel called XM Sports Nation, on a satellite network called XM Satellite Radio, that is Sirius XM now. And when the NASCAR radio contract went over to Sirius because they bid $20 million to re-air the audio from MRN, which, maybe it was a great move. Maybe that's part of what collapsed the two companies. They're obviously doing well, and I hope their stock continues to go great. But that is a different story. Alan Reinhart came on WFO, and it was called Power Shift, and we had NHRA Tuesday, IndyCar Wednesday, Formula One Thursday, and I made these great relationships with Bob Varsha and Mike King and Alan Reinhart. But being a drag racer myself, once we started the podcast, and the NHRA show just continued naturally. And here we are so many years later with the WFO Radio podcast after so many trials and tribulations. It has been amazing. And we keep having this conversation with Alan. And he's got a wealth of knowledge. Think about that story going in to talk to Warren Johnson. He won't tell you that you're what it is, but he'll tell you that your methodology for finding the problem is incorrect. That's a huge help. And that's why I love the drag racers so much, because they are very smart people and they are problem solvers and they are all cooped up at home and probably very, very frustrated right now. And I can tell they're frustrated by the Facebook posts. We're going to do a Facebook Live here in the next week, this week at some point. You people listening immediately, you're going to get a good opportunity. I'm going to use it to promote the podcast and our great sponsors like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and samtech.edu. TotalSeal.com, MagicDryUS.com, and RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, Marvin Rodak. I'm also going to get Marvin on the horn. We're going to get Marvin out there and check in with him. But I'm working on Antron Brown and some other guests, and we'll put out the audio as a podcast as well. But I'm going to dive into the live stream thing because people are home and they are bored, and so pay attention for that. Something else that's going on, I do want to make you aware. Bobby Bennett from Competition Plus, I referenced his interview a few times. I'm troubled because I've heard from several people that say they don't want to listen to it. They don't want to listen to it. They're not ready to hear it. And I feel like they should be ready to hear it, that this is the kind of thing we're supposedly tough drag racers and can handle anything except not hearing Bobby Bennett. You need to hear Bobby Bennett, folks. Read his article, but hear his voice and the way he spoke about questions that I asked. It's a must-hear interview. But now that he is recovering, he's got something really good going on, like the virtual reality hot rod association thing he's doing, which is just a vote. It's a vote. And there's, Top Fuel and Funny Car and Pro Stock, for instance, the final round. Terry McMillan versus Clay Millican, of course. How about Terry? Like, who did Terry beat? Terry beat, it's just a vote. It's just a vote. It's very interesting if you think about it. It's just online voting. Terry McMillan defeated Leah first round. Brittany defeated Steve first round. Clay defeated Palmer first round. And Doug Coletta defeated Arthur Allen first round. And I guess there's paint schemes, etc., determining what you think about the cars, etc. But really, it's just popularity. Terry over Doug, second round. Clay over Brittany, second round. And then Terry versus Clay in the final. Vote, vote, vote. In Funny Car, Alexis over Blake, first round. John over Robert, first round. Tim over, do I need to say Tim who? Wilk over Jeff Deal, first round. And Caps over Beckman, first round. Second round, Alexis over Caps. And Wilk over Force. Final round, Alexis versus Wilk. Vote, vote, vote. And I think there's paint schemes, and it's art, and I see the artwork there. And then finally, Pro Stock. Well, there's Pro Stock Bike also. Pro Stock, Kyle Koretsky over Kenny Delco, Aaron Stanfield over Bo, Erica over Jason, Jeg over Matt Hartford. Round 2, Kyle Koretsky over Jeg, Jeggy Coughlin, Jeggy. Aaron Stanfield over Erica. Final round, Kyle Koretsky versus Aaron Stanfield. Vote, vote, vote. And finally, Pro Stock Motorcycle, Angel over Angie. Matt Smith over Andrew Hines. Steve Johnson over Eddie. Karen Stouffer over Jerry. Then Angel over Karen. And Steve over Matt. And now it's Angel versus Steve in the final round. Vote, vote, vote. And the Pro Modified category. How many more categories are there, Bobby? Stevie Fast over Todd Tutterow, first round. Ricky Smith over Jason Scruggs, first round. Alex Laughlin over Steve Matuzik, first round. Jim Whiteley over Mike Janis, first round. Stevie over Whiteley. Ricky over Alex. Stevie versus Ricky in final round. Go there. Vote, vote, vote. But really, it's all about Bobby Bennett. Listen to his interview. Hear his voice. You need to do it. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you again. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Marvin Rodak, MagicDryUS.com, Total Seal, and Samtech. Hey, Total Seal Piston Rings. Hidden Horsepower by Total Seal. If you have not yet subscribed to this on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or Spotify, you need to. If you're an engine guy. A lot of great information. Samtech.edu, Factory Stock Podcast. We got to get another one of them going now that we know the schedule. We got the first one of the season out. I know you didn't hear it because everybody was working on some other stuff. We have a Dodge, we have a Ford, and we have a Chevrolet. Get on that, Factory Stock Podcast. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. One more note, the Patreons. The Patreons, patreon.com/WFO radio. You just want the interviews raw. From welcome to the show, and that's it. We post those on patreon.com/WFO radio. You can get there from WFO.com. These are listeners who are helping WFO by volunteering a monthly subscription of their choice. Would you like to help a small business like WFO Radio get through this trying time in exchange for early access to interviews and unique content, all of which you can go back and access once you become a patron? Go to Patreon, patreon.com/WFO radio. Get on it. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time. WFO.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO radio.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, engine builders, Total Seal piston rings are the leader in ring seal technology, and they go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you might have. Customer service, top notch. Made in America? Absolutely. They're located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they've got everything it takes to develop the world's best piston rings. Give them a call at 800-874-2753 or go to TotalSeal.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
You're working in the shop, you've got spills, you've spilled oil, it's everywhere. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do, but that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go to MagicDryUS.com and order the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, Magic Dry. It's lighter, it absorbs more, it's better for the environment. It's made out of coconut. It's made in America. MagicDryUS.com. They've got spill kits that include everything you need for a regular, normal household spill, all the way up to a large industrial spill. We always say, if you've got a cat, get Cat Spot. If you've got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you've got a spill, call Magic Dry. That's MagicDryUS.com.
WFO Radio is brought to you in part by Extreme Velocity 3 Drag Racing. Download for your mobile device. Win your way on the show. WFO.
Attention adrenaline junkies, Frank Hawley's Dragster Adventure is calling you. Rides available for the 2020 season. Go to frankhawley.com. They're coming to a track near you. It makes a great gift, whether it be licensing for super comp, super gas, all the way up to top alcohol. They can do it. But if you're a drag racing fan and you've always imagined what it might be like to drive a dragster, to accelerate 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and run 10s in the quarter mile, give them a call. 866 480-7223, frankhawley.com, The Dragster Adventure, and tell them you heard it on WFO. We're talking gourmet coffee, we're talking hot sauces, we're talking spice rubs, we're talking everything good at RodakCoffeeandGrills.com. Marvin Rodak, been doing it since the 70s, figured out that life is better with great coffee, and oh, he's so right. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. He'll roast up some coffee fresh for you. Throw in some hot sauce, some spice rub, and you will be loving it. Hit him up, RodakCoffeeandGrills.com.
Hey, WFO Universe. Want something for free? Send a self-addressed stamped envelope with plenty of postage, and we'll load it up with free WFO stickers. That's right, I said free. Send your envelope, care of Castello Media /WFO stickers to P.O. Box 848353, Pembroke Pines, Florida 33084. Do it now.
This is